I've always felt like I'm an outcast somehow because I don't really I feel like I belong somewhere. I feel like the kind of female singer that I actually long to see were not well represented. The one that's like robust, breaking rules. I haven't seen anything like it. So I made myself one. That was the lowest point of my life. I just got my 5-year of marriage. And so it was hard for me to navigate after all that.
Welcome to Before We Get There, the podcast where we explore people's journeys, how they got to where they are, what keeps them pushing forward, and where, eventually, they want to get to. I'm your host, Nicholas Braman, and today I'm joined by Neonomora. She's an award-winning indie musician from Jakarta, Indonesia, known for her dark and electrifying sound. We talk about her musical influences and inspirations, including being bullied and losses in her life, how becoming a mother has affected her creative energy, her musical evolution over her career, what she learned from living in wide-ranging places around the world, and much more. Enjoy the show. Hi, Ra. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. I'm excited to be here in Jakarta.
Yeah.
Talking
Welcome
to you.
to Jakarta.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I wanted to start off with a big congratulations on having a baby. My daughter is 3 years old, so pretty new parent as well. To ask you how it's been going and especially how you think it may affect your music and your creative side as you go forward.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your side too. I'm still navigating motherhood, but it hasn't just changed me. Basically, it defined me. It defined who I am today as a musician. I think I'm writing an album these days, and she basically inspired me in a whole lot of ways.
That's really cool. When you say inspired, I think it's pretty cliche, but
Yeah.
I definitely agree that having my child was one of the most important and best thing that has happened to me. But where do you think that inspiration comes from, or what aspect of becoming a mother has inspired you the most?
Right. So I think I'm pretty used to like writing dark songs. If you songs and heard some of it. But I think being a mother, and especially like you have to turn on the TV and you watch Sesame Street every day. It turns me into, kind of bright artist, I guess, in the way of my writing. It actually challenges me to listen to more pop songs because I feel like writing a pop song is actually challenging, for an artist like me. Because I use a lot of metaphors in my lyrics. Now it's more like, direct.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that in your music going forward.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be fun. And I wanted to actually ask you about, because I read you had shared when you were, the first time you got on stage, you were like 3 years old. Mm-hmm. After you were done, you immediately told your mom, "I want to become a performer."
Yeah.
Maybe you can't remember exactly the feeling at that time, but it must have been something that drew you to want to be artist and want to be a performer in front of people. Mm-hmm. Do you remember like what that feeling was like then?
I think I was about 5 at the time, and only later in life, I think I was 30 something, someone told me that I actually have something that's called synesthesia. You don't just hear music, but you actually see the visuals when you listen to music. Wow. Even when I listen to the way you talk and it forms some kind of melody, like I see some kind of colors or visuals. And I think that's what I felt when I performed on stage, and it surprised me actually. And I just told my mom, this is something that's just, light my spark. You know what I mean? And I think that's why, I just wanted to be a performer, because I feel like the visuals that were once in my head became a reality, That's how it kind of grows from there.
Do you think that affects the way you write, perform music differently than how musicians do it?
Yeah, I think so. Because whenever I go into the studio recording, I feel like I'm already there visually. You know what I mean? Some artists they need like assistance in making the visuals or branding per se, but I feel like I'm already there. Like I knew what I was doing in the studio and writing songs, but then I came up with this bunch of like visuals, and I feel like I'm sort of fortunate.
Yeah, that sounds like an amazing feeling or visual to have.
Yeah.
And I heard that you also draw. You have other artistic pursuits other than
Yeah,
singing or
yeah,
something,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think it's from there as well. It all started from having this kind of, I would say, gift maybe. And that's where what draws me into painting and I think writing too, because I think these things, I just can't be myself and it just quiets my mind. And that's the place where I feel like I'm myself when I do, painting and drawing.
Well, I think we can all hear the gift when we listen to your
Let's see
music.
about
But
that.
have you ever talked to anybody who is able to also visualize?
No, I haven't. But I think just recently I watched an interview from Billie Eilish, and she has synesthesia as well, and I feel like the way she describes of having this synesthesia, I feel like it's kind of the same, and I can relate to that so much. But I haven't even met anyone. I think basically from here, locally, maybe. If you find one, if you hear one, someone is hearing this podcast, maybe just come up and say hi.
And so, did it happen when you listened to music for the first time, or was it only when you were the one?
I think it was back when I went on stage for the first time. I would just close my eyes, just like the performers do. Sometimes they close their eyes and just to feel, present. That's the time where I began. The visuals are coming in. Yeah.
That's really amazing. I wanted to ask about maybe jumping forward a little bit in your life because you did music when you were young, and as you got older, from what I understand, your parents were kind of pushing you to go in a more traditional path.
Yeah.
And so eventually you started being successful and you had opportunities to do it full time, but it wasn't until you were kind of forced for the timing to tell your parents.
Yeah.
What was that like, first of all?
It was scary at first, I think, because I didn't have any support. Basically, the support from your family is actually the best support of all. But I would say my parents are very strict parents, and that's why I kept it hidden from them in the beginning. But then again, I don't blame them from that. They're just built that way. And I feel like it actually challenged me to be someone who can just pursue their dreams seriously.
And now looking back with hindsight and with more experience and maturity, do you wish that you would have handled it a different way, or do you feel that was the right way to do it?
I think that was the right way to do it because it was a hard time. It was a hard time for me to like. I think communication for them were not their forte, and I feel like it hasn't changed since. So yeah, I would say it probably would still be the same.
And after you got it out, was it a sense of relief, or how did you feel after it happened?
They actually came to realize that I'm actually pursuing this career was when I got nominated by Indonesian local awards, and they saw me on TV. And I came home and then they asked me about it, and yeah. And I think my parents were, because they're so strict, they just need some kind of proof whether you're actually so into what you're actually trying to pursue. So yeah, that's what I basically had to do, like giving them the proof.
It's difficult to do when you're not able to share the journey up to that point before you have the proof to share.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. But when I came back, I kind of found my tribe here, and I found the support system that I needed as well. And although it's hard, at home, but still, like, I feel like I still have the support system that gave me the support that I needed. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because similar to myself, you've lived in a lot of different countries all around
Yeah.
the world. I think when you were very young, you were in Chicago in the US for a while, and then in China. And that's really interesting because I had a very similar experience.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Yeah. So I grew up in Seattle, which isn't as big as Jakarta, but it's the major city in the US for the US. And then when I was a junior in high school, my parents moved to a very small town about 5 hours away. So it'd be like moving from Jakarta to a little tambang somewhere.
All right.
It was completely different. All the kids there had grown up from the time they were babies together. They all knew each other. The families knew each other. And it was I didn't handle it very well, to be honest. It was a big change. It wasn't a disaster, but it could have been better. But I still don't think that was as big a change, maybe, as coming from Jakarta to Beijing. So what was that experience like?
I was so young, when I lived in Chicago, Illinois, because my dad was taking his master's degree there. I think growing up in different places kind of, people would say, you're very fortunate of, living in different places in your life, but it was kind of difficult at the same time because I feel like you have to like adjust and adapt to different environments. Especially, I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't have friends. And even when I came back to Jakarta, I don't feel like I'm really home, because I don't know where home is because, in different places. But in a way, like I feel like it actually inspired me to be an artist, all these musical journey that I had went through, and then also meeting lots of different, people from various different backgrounds. I feel like I'm very fortunate as a person.
So when you were in China, you were older.
Yeah, I was older.
Yeah, I read that you were even getting bullied by other classmates.
Oh, that was when I was in Jakarta.
Oh, in Jakarta.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I think I've always felt like I'm an outcast somehow because I don't really I feel like I belong somewhere. In Jakarta, I didn't get the chance to go into the international school, so it's a local school. So I feel like I'm like the different kind of weird. But yeah, bully. It actually pushed me into being the person that I am today. Although it's an unfortunate story, I feel like it's so hard to get away from the kind of feeling, the kind of emotion that you actually went through growing up and bullied.
And so do you think that when you say it inspired you, is that only when you were able to get some distance from it and look back on it later? Or even during that time when it was happening, when you felt like you didn't have community and friends, was it inspiring you while you were going through it?
I think the chance of living abroad, because I live in Beijing right after, spending 1 year in high school in Jakarta. I think that's when I feel like, everything just had moved on. It inspired me in a way. I think the way I write lyrics, I could just dive deep into myself and just find, if I want to write something that's painful, I would just go into that, back into that place again. Although it's kind of scary when doing it, but it actually is the source of being myself and an artist and writing kind of lyrics that I needed to write,
And then I think for university, you went to Australia, right?
Yeah.
And I read you were saying before that you were exposed to a lot of different kinds of music there that really kind of give you inspiration, maybe some more insight into what the world of music has to offer compared to when you were younger. Can you share any more about that? What was that like being at, I mean, again, a completely different culture from China and Jakarta once more?
It's pretty crazy. It was a crazy ride. I think Perth is something else, man. I mean, it opened my eyes about a lot of things, you know. The people are just so free there. Like they just welcome you. You would just like go down the street and they would just wave at you. I don't know if it has to deal with their geographical location or like the history of the place, but I feel like everybody there was just, I don't know, free in a way. They just somehow let you be yourself. When I went to university, next to my class was University of Arts. It's called WAPA, if you've heard of it. There were dancers and, you know, musicians there as well. And I just feel like I've just found my tribe and I feel like I just belong there, you know. I was growing up, I feel like I only listened to the music that I was introduced to. But then in Australia, I think like the underground music, if you go, you know, downtown and then go to the clubs and the bars there, they have like all different kind of music that you wouldn't even probably listen from different other parts of the world. But Perth, I feel like the air feels different there. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, that's.
And so, had you thought about pursuing a career in music before that, or was that kind of what opened your eyes to that possibility?
Yeah, I actually did not think of like pursuing my music there. I was so into drawing, but not music. I don't know why. Like I told you before, like I love performing, but then like I think Perth, like kind of I can explore myself in a way. Like I'm just okay. I'm used to like telling myself that this is me. Like I sing, I perform, but then Perth kind of, I don't know, like pushes me into the artist that I feel like I haven't explored, you know, like the side of me that I haven't even gotten to see, you know. That's why like I think I took photography there. But it was so funny because I really wanted to just learn the other art departments that I haven't learned before. So yeah, when I was there, I think music was way back.
But it was more the art scene,
Yeah.
the exposure to underground indie
Yeah.
artists and people
Yeah.
doing their own things, right?
Yeah. That was the first time I actually listened to Radiohead. I used to say to a friend of mine, like, you know, it's the guy Tom York cannot sing. But then I know like it's not about the singing, you know, it's about like the whole creativity that he tried to pull and bring all together and make it into like this one whole complete package. Yeah.
And so then after you came back to Jakarta and you started making music, you became popular quite quickly after your first song and your first album.
Yeah.
Do you think...
Thank God.
I was wondering if that made you feel pressure to have that level of success at the beginning of your career that, wow, I have to really make sure that I, you know, it's not like, okay, I put out one album and a few people listen to it and they like it, but, you know, as you mentioned, you're getting awards and media coverage and all this thing. Was there any pressure or imposter syndrome or doubt that you had about, you know, my next album has to be even better than the first one?
Yeah. No, not really. I don't know. Maybe people expect it to be that way, but I feel like the only pressure that I had was to keep going. Like, how do I keep going as an artist, you know? Because from one album to another one, and, you know, what else should I be talking about in this album? Things like that. And then life got in the way, you know? Yeah. Just how to keep going, and I never pressure myself to be relatable, or like I never even I wasn't even expecting an award here. I was just releasing this album. It was just about me, and people love it, and yeah, it's but yeah, I never actually thought of being an artist as like just mere, achievement. I feel like it's more like some kind of, what do you call it? Like something that's like, I want it to be natural as possible, the growth and everything. I want to feel it all. Maybe because like growing in different places make me feel like the pace of my love is kind of faster than anyone else. And that's why when I decided to just like want to be an artist and performer, I just want to feel it. I just want to be present and feel it all. I think that's, yeah.
And so, what is that feeling when you release or create a piece of art or a song and you put it out in the world and other people have reactions and emotions to it? What is the feeling for you? Like, do you know before you even have other people listen to it that this is
Something that's like
meaning?
you feel people can
Yeah,
relate to?
yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I would love it to be that way, knowing that people love this music. But then again, every time like I get into the studio recording stuff, I would just basically explore things and, just crush everything together and just like try to, put this whole creative idea that were in my head and then into this one piece of music. But yeah, I don't think I've ever thought of if this music is going to be relatable to someone. But at least I'm myself, writing it, coming from the purest or, heart that I felt at the time.
So, would you say you're creating it for yourself, or you're just not just, I think it's not a big thing, but you're getting the artistic expression out from what it's like bursting to come out of what it kind of sounds like you're saying?
I think it all has to. I saw this one. I just remember I saw this one quote from, if you've heard of Rick Rubin, that when you try to create something, try to just make it for yourself first. Don't just try not care about the audience, because I think it's the root of like fear when you think of the reception of everyone else before you actually see into yourself first, So, yeah, I think that's what I try to do whenever I try to record the music.
And have there been any songs that, listening back further down the road, you wish something was different or you would change something?
No, I don't regret it at all, I think. But I think there were times that I actually doubted myself so much writing songs, especially my last album. It's called Inflammable. I tried to be someone that I feel like that I was really actually not, because like I told you before, I am so used to writing this dark and sad songs in my first and second album, but I was just trying to explore myself and trying to just get out of my comfort zone. That's when the third album came out, and what I did was I actually asked a lot of opinions from different people. When that was not the kind of method that I used in first. I used to like believe in myself, and just when I wanted something out for the music, I'm just I was so surefire. This is what I like. But third album, maybe that was during pandemic, and I doubted myself so much, and I saw too many opinions, but then too many opinions are not good for, making something that's actually has to be from the bottom of your heart. So that's what I learned. I think, yeah, when it comes to the turning point was the last album.
Do you recall what was the pressure, or where did it come from that you changed for that album?
I think that was the lowest point of my life. I just recently got my 5 year of marriage, and because like me and my ex-husband, we actually made this all together. I actually co-founded an indie record label with him. And so it was hard for me to navigate after all that. And, but also I'm trying to just like move on and having this career. And then I was halfway into finishing the album. And that's why it was so hard for me to just, opinion that's for myself, and that's why I kept on like asking a lot of people about whether this sounds good or not, does he sounds, well managed or, things like that. But yeah, I think that's where, like how it went, how.
And so going through that time, did you ever think about giving up on that album or starting from?
Yeah. A few times, actually. It was crazy. It was a crazy time. But yeah, I mean, like finishing that album and then just like be vulnerable basically in my lyrics and just trying to see myself in a different way. And I actually wrote a lot of songs with like different pop artists at the time. And that's why it probably inspired me into writing lyrics that come from like a different kind of way of writing, writing pop songs. And I think the last album, the third album, Inflammable, was like the most different of it. Like it's the brightest one. It's cheerful, it's energetic, and it's not dark at all. Like, and it's like the lyrics are pretty direct. Like, I love you and things like that. It wasn't like the previous ones, but in a way, like I don't regret it. It got me here.
I saw you mention earlier in your career also that felt like a lot of the successful women in music industry here are like a certain type of music and look and that sort of thing, and you were very different from that. Have you seen that change over the years, over your career?
Oh yeah. I think globalization as well. People get inspired through TikToks and what have you. But then when I first started, it was more like ballads, pop, and it's all about beauty and how girly for a certain female singer should seem on the big screen. But I feel like the kind of female singer that I actually long to see were not well represented. The one that's like robust, breaking rules, and like, powerful in their songwriting or even the arts. Probably that was just like the beginning of me living in here, but I haven't seen anything like it. So I made myself one. Yeah.
And so going back to your own journey, we were talking about Inflammable before.
Yeah.
That was in 2021, I believe.
2021, yes.
And so it's been 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
What have you been working on? I believe you have a fourth album that you're working on now. Mm-hmm. What has that been from, and what's the new? If you can share anything about, what's the inspiration behind the new album? Where do you see yourself developing as an artist?
Right. Well, it's quite a journey actually from that, 2021 to today. Like, I became a mother, a lot of things. My parents got divorced during the pandemic, and that was hard to deal with because I don't know what's worse, growing up as a child with a broken home or growing, being an adult and then suddenly your parents got divorced, because there are lots of memories that we actually, carried with us. But yeah, and then my dad got remarried soon after, and I got remarried, and then I became a mother. So that's actually the hint of like what the next album is going to sound like.
That's the hint.
It's pretty rowdy and chaotic. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun to write. Yeah.
That's cool. And Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you kind of answered it already, but I was curious when I was researching you, because when you talked about Australia and Perth, how it exposed you to things like we talked about, um, you, what has led you to stay here in Indonesia and in Jakarta instead of trying to build your career and music and see what it's like to try to do that in
In
the US or Australia?
right. First of all, the permanent resident visa is so hard to obtain. It's so hard, man. I actually tried to like reapply, but then I got offered this job from the British Council, from their arts department, and that kind of I think that was the turning point of like me being an artist and see like the cultural differences, the richness of this country, the home country that I actually am from, and that I opened my eyes, like it widened my perception of the whole, like different things. And that's when I feel like there's like endless possibilities and potential that I can actually dig in and explore. And that's where I feel like maybe I should start here, And then I met like this group of friends through the British Council as well. They're recording artists and musicians. And yeah, I think that's when I feel like maybe this is the calling.
And so at this point, more than a decade into your career, now do you feel like this is where you'll stay, your fans, community is here?
Yeah. I mean, of course, like that's, I feel like I love my listeners so much and they're very loyal, very like whenever I get out, I have this merchandise that I want to, just show to them. They would just like be the first people to like, I'm so thankful for them. And I'm really thankful for, the whole opportunity. And I feel like I don't regret any of it. You know what I mean? Like if I had like a chance to like, basically I don't want to change it for the world, and I feel good and I'm already proud of it. Yeah.
So when you talk about your fans, I'm curious, like, is there any good stories about feedback? Like, what does it feel like when somebody that you've never met before comes up and shares a story about how your music has affected them or it, helped them through a tough time or that sort of thing?
It was weird at first, of course. I mean, like, who am I, starting off, I was like, who's going to listen to my music? But apparently a lot now. There was this one story where like this one person who just gave birth and they named their daughter Neonomora, in which I was flabbergasted. I'm like, really? Because I mean, like I invented that name. It actually does not have like a certain meaning. But then to hear that kind of news, man, I mean, like it's way, way beyond my comprehension. But yeah.
How long ago was that? Have you had a chance to meet the kid?
I actually haven't, because they actually live in Bandung. It's like, I don't know how many kilometers away from here, but like it's, but I said hi to them through direct message through social media. And I said like, I hope like she's well, because she's taken that name, It's,
that's
yeah.
Amazing. And that's, you've mentioned some of the things, both so far when we're talking and also in the social media and other places about some of the challenges that you've gone through in your life and the rough patches. And there's been some really tough times and some dark times in your life. But I'm not a very musical person, but honestly,
you look like you are.
But even when I listen to your first two albums, I don't feel that they're very melancholic or they're like the kind of music I would listen to when I'm depressed lying in bed. There's still energy there. And there's still, a sense of hope coming through or a sense of power coming through music. what do you think has kept you going through those tough times, and how are you able to be still positive about life, still creative and inspirational, and getting inspiration to put out music into great art?
I think just loving my crafts. Basically, I understanding where I was going through, and then just turning it into something that's like people can relate to. I feel like that's what keeps me going. I mean, I never expected anyone to like listen to my music in the beginning, but now it's more like it's about them. It's about me, you know. And I feel like I should be grateful for it, and that these people would just like identify with like the arts or the music I make, and yeah, I'm very fortunate.
You mentioned earlier when you were talking about moving to different countries that you had to learn how to adapt to new places. What were some of the lessons that you took from those times, because you were a lot younger then?
Yeah.
And then how have you used that in other times in your life or your career?
Whenever I try to like close my eyes, sometimes like I would just like be in Beijing or be in Perth, you know. And I think I kind of leave like parts of me all over the place, you know, Beijing, and it's actually really nice that person like me to get to be able to do this, and you know, basically it's actually the motivation of it all, the motivation behind me doing what I'm doing now. Like sometimes these like flashes of memory coming back, and I would just like feel like the person that I am is just is actually short-lived. It's something I used to like try to like look for something like your future goals and things like that, but now it's more like how I actually feel here, like mentally and physically. That's what I'm always trying to do here. Yeah.
Trying to live in the moment?
I'm trying to live in the moment, just be present. Yeah. I think because it's hard. I mean, like, if you've lived in different places, I feel like you're in a lot of places, like you're here and there, and you miss this place, you know. But yeah, I mean.
And when you lose touch with that perspective, how do you get back into that mode?
Pinch myself or slap myself in the face, maybe. But no, yeah. Maybe just like try to like breathe in, like try to breathe in, and basically just yeah. It's a great question, but it's hard to like
No, I understand. Do you ever get stuck, or do you have periods when creativity and the inspiration just isn't there?
Of course. I mean, it's real. Sometimes you just like you don't always like get that kind of inspiration flowing, you know, in your mind. But yeah, sometimes I do get stuck in writing.
I mean, how have you got through that before?
Talking to people, I guess, and listening to the stories that they want to share to me. It actually helps, you know, listening to the background of the people that I, just met maybe, because that's what I did in my like second album, Waters. I met this one person, and she dealt with a lot of traumas and all that, and because my second album, I actually dealt with like a passing of a dear friend of mine. It's actually listening to her was like pretty relatable to me by the time, and so it actually helped me getting through this writer's blockage. And yeah, I think sharing, like listening to other people's stories would help.
Do you like have the same people that you go back to, or is it like new inspiration coming from different places?
Oh, you mean like the people that inspired me before?
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to like meet different people, trying to explore, different kind of, because different album talks about different stuff, right? So yeah, but I don't think every album has the same kind of method, even like this upcoming album I'm doing now. Like I try to be more into myself than like coming from the outside view, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do. So no, I think like for this upcoming album, it's more like minimalism me. I feel like the first and second were like very maximalist per se, but this one is more like, diving deep more into myself. Yeah.
Core.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to see what is actually inside. Yeah.
Looking forward to that. I can't wait to hear your future music and see where it takes us. First of all, where can people find you and your music if they want to, if they haven't found it yet and they want to listen to it?
Right. Okay. So Neonomora, it all goes by the same name. Instagram, Neonomora, Spotify, Neonomora. It's Neonomora. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll put it in the show notes. And thanks again so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was really great to talk to you and learn about your journey.
Too.
And I look forward to having a cup of coffee in 5 years and we'll be doing since then.
Yes. Thank you so much, Nicholas.
Thank you for listening to Before We Get There with your host, Nicholas Braman. Please like and subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Before We Get There Podcast. New episodes are released every other Thursday morning. See you next time.